Hello and welcome to another episode of Get Out of Rap. Today I'm joined by Ben Booth, the CEO at Max Contact. For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see Ben is like a younger, more athletic version of me, but we have very similar styles. Ben, thank you so much for coming on Get Out of Rap.
Thanks for having me. And I don't know about the younger, more athletic. Get away with it sometimes, but it is the new look, isn't it? It's the modern man look.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are trendsetters, is what we want to say.
I told someone the other day with that team of three, it's what my dad used to say: grass does not grow on a busy road. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I love that. I'm going to use that one. So the busy road that is your brain has led to you kind of reaching CEO level, and I think everyone that listens is always really interested in your kind of the journey that's got you to where you are. And we'll talk about Max Contact and everything that you guys are doing. You're up to some really exciting stuff. But for you personally, what's been the journey?
Yeah, a bit of a weird, strange journey for me. So I started off. I've worked at this company in its many forms of legal entities for over 20 years. So I started off on first line support. I was an implementations engineer back in the day when you had to go to site to do an implementation and put a server in a server room, and nice job patching under agents' desks, which I wouldn't advise. And just done nearly every job in the company. The first website I built, it was meant to be temporary. It only got took down about 18 months ago. And
did you cry?
Do you know what? I didn't cry. I celebrated, actually. The new one's significantly better, let's put it that way. And never really set off to be, I never set off to be, I want to be a CEO. We were a family-led business. So there was two parents and a son. And we used to be a reseller of contact center software. So we resold usually American-based products, and we did that for 12 years. And we decided to build our own software. It was let's do our own with this. And why did we do that? I mean, that's a question. We thought there was a gap in the market. We had 150, 160 clients. We were doing well. We were dealing with American firms. And to be honest, there was never a true partnership there. We couldn't even pay them to do things we wanted to do for our clients. And the gap in the hosting was coming. So we were on-prem. Hosting was becoming a thing. Never take off. And we, that they're hosting. And we decided there was just a better way. We like, the word partnership is overused in the industry. Everyone says we're a partner. But our clients do see us as partners. And we wanted to do things. I like doing things the right way. I like to say, even if there's a disagreement, I can go to sleep at night, and we made the right decision, and we made every effort as we could have done as a business for their business. And we weren't getting that from our suppliers. So we set off to build our own software. So then that took me into almost product management. So I've done over 500 implementations. I've been on site over 500 contact centers, looked at how you implement the system, how you deliver value, and dealing with the clients, and a lot of time owners of the businesses, and saw the impact it had on their lives and their staff's lives. So we used that experience to build Max Contact. We had a lot of catching up to do. So the big vendors in the world, they obviously had mature products. We were starting from scratch, and we came from an outbound environment. So we built a product. We were still family-led at the time. I got an operations director's title. And it was always the plan to try and do a management buyout. And it was now 2.5 years ago I led that buyout in the pandemic. I've never done anything like that before in my life. So going to investors to try and raise funds to back you as a business and back the management team for growth over the next 3 years, how you present that, your pitch deck, even the forecasting, it was not something I was particularly used to doing. We found a very good private equity firm called FPE Capital. They only invest in software companies and service delivery, like SAP consultants. So yes, and then that's how I became CEO. Really, it wasn't ever. I know you get people, these entrepreneurs that set out and they want to run their own business, and it's about being a CEO and starting your own company. Mine was more about, we're at this junction and crossroads with the original owners who were getting to retirement age, And I'd worked very hard, and the team had worked very hard, and I'd worked with some of the staff who've been with us 15 years plus. And it was more about protecting their careers and giving them the opportunity that we had, because they could have sold to trade, and that usually goes one way, to be honest, when you go to a trade sale. And I didn't want that to happen. I wanted them to have the same opportunities and good careers as well moving forward, which is what really motivated me. And then that's just evolved over the years to actually seeing what we can do and how we can grow as a business and actually start challenging some of those big vendors that exist out there. So yeah, a bit of a weird path. Still look back now, you see me take a pause and think, how did it happen? You kind of just keep going and it didn't stop. But yeah, that's how it happened, and that's how I got here.
We don't often pause and reflect, do we? And that kind of, how much did the experience of, like you say, kind of from cradle to, from implementation all the way through to then the development of products and then getting into who are we as a business, all of those things shaped this kind of, it's obvious you're passionate about the company and the kind of that pivotal moment there, that raison d'etre, right, as to why you wanted a management buyout, and then how you've become CEO is based on protection of the entity and the experience that you've had. But how much of all of those doing those other roles comes to bear now with your current role? Do you have a view? Are you hands-on? Are you kind of more delegate? Where do you sit in that kind of?
That's been tough. So that's the evolution, one of the business, and I'd say to myself, it's been very, very tough to delegate. I think a lot of people go through this, and I don't mind admitting it. So I was very hands-on at one point. I was involved in every decision, and you think that's a good job, and you're doing a good job, and especially when you come as an engineer, because engineers love solving problems. They like to be heroes, and I was good at that. And ultimately, what got you to where you are and what you was good at doesn't make you good at that job, and that's a common problem. And so over these last 2.5 years, I've gone through a massive learning experience myself. And actually now what I see my job as is to coach other people and give them a career they want. And I tell quite a lot of people, my job is to recruit people better than me and to build a business that can scale. And also, if it's the hit by the bus, if I was hit by the bus, then the business should be protected to go forward. And that actually is the job. So I was definitely too hands-on. I have no doubt if you speak to my leadership team, they'll probably tell you I'm still a little too hands-on, but I am trying, and I am definitely getting better at it. I still jump in sometimes. They say they don't mind. I'm sure they do. But it's been definitely an evolution and a learning curve for me that's been very hard, actually. It's a hard thing to do, to step back about what you do and almost change where you get gratification for your job, because actually that gratification on what you do well tends to be quite prolonged. If you jump in and solve an issue, it's quite instant. You progressing someone's career over 2-3 years actually is very delayed, and seeing how that evolves. But I will say a quick story. We had an insider event, so a user group 2 weeks ago. And at the end of that user group, I had no involvement in arranging it. We had our clients and a lot of staff there. We did presentations, got some in. And you sit back and watch that event with your clients, and everyone's saying how great the business and the staff are. And that there is what makes you proud. And that's your job. And changing from that to that has been the transition on where you get enjoyment about your job. But that was really interesting to see. I really felt proud about that moment.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because that experience, then a lot of these things, it's even like parenting, in that kind of, you just want to deliver a solution, when sometimes the best solution is to stand back and in that space people can grow. Yes.
So I would say, even though I know this, so when we had the family-led business, one thing, they weren't hands-on. We had a very good core set of engineers who worked very, very hard to make things work. But what they did give me the opportunity to do was learn and learn a lot of those lessons and make, not the mistakes, but the lessons learned. And I learned and I progressed fast because I was given that opportunity to learn. And by senior staff jumping in, is actually you're taking that opportunity away from your staff to learn and progress. and they need that opportunity to learn. That's how you get to where you are. If you constantly, I mean, you should do that in a safe working environment. You shouldn't, put them in a position where they can cause havoc, but you do need to give them the opportunity to learn. And it is, when you're not doing it, it's a detriment to your staff. And I do believe that.
You're dead right. I think just kind of curating the right spaces to enable people to make mistakes as well. Yeah. And that must be difficult when you are born and bred engineer. This is your thing, kind of like, well, what point do you intervene?
Well, it's I always say, I remember, and someone said, have you had any failures in your career? And it's like, I've had no failures, but I've learned a lot of hard lessons. Yeah. It's the same thing. There's jumping and intervening, and there's coaching. And that's something I've had to learn. I quite often have to read a coaching book to remind me about the coaching. And, coaching someone through it is, you get more enjoyment out of them getting to the answer and working it out for themselves than actually just giving it them. And that's where you need to get to. But creating that environment's quite hard. I mean, I said we used to resell, so we were a sales company. Imagine the culture of a sales company to a software company where you try and implement this growth innovation culture. That was a massive transition for us. And you think it's easy changing culture in a business. It really isn't. You think you can just say it and it happens. And you're like, why aren't people doing it? I've told them to do it. Why aren't they doing it? And it takes a lot of time, and they need to see, especially from the management team down, they need to see examples of it and it working, and you be the leader, and it filters down, and then eventually it becomes, this is the way we work. But that innovation learning culture is very hard to actually transition to and get right, actually.
I love that. That's so funny, because you're building new organizational neural pathways, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're asking for a different way of thinking. And to think, just to take you back a bit, all of this happened at the outset of the pandemic, was it?
Yeah, I mean, God, yeah, that was actually the biggest challenge, and we'd made some big mistakes. We've learned some big lessons. So in the pandemic, we went into lockdown. My last meeting was with the PE firm, but just as we were about to do contracts to go into due diligence. And we went into the pandemic, completed the acquisition. Everyone thought it was going to be over by Christmas. It wasn't. We were still in the bubbles, if you remember the bubbles.
Yeah.
And we then doubled in size and staff, which for a company that was so close and we're in the office most days, to double in staff remotely, we didn't get it right. We didn't adapt the way we do onboarding. We didn't adapt the way we do mentoring and training. We used to stick a buddy system. We used to sit couldn't do that anymore. So we learned a lot of lessons very hard there in going through some growing pains as well. Now, the pandemic didn't help, to be honest. It made those lessons harder, and we made mistakes we wouldn't probably have made. But we went through that, and one thing we do in our company is we do learn fast. So we there's no egos. We look at what we did, we look at what went wrong, and as a team, we say, right, well, this is what we're going to do different, and we try something different. It might not work, but we learn again and we try again until we get it right. And if we go back to when we bought the company to now, the business is completely different. It's completely transformed on how we do things. And the pandemic in some ways has helped accelerate it, but it also meant it was a much more painful experience than I was expecting.
What's kind of surprised you about where you've ended up then? If there's this transformation, is it all been planned and you kind of go, yeah, we're exactly where I thought we'd be? Or have there been a couple of surprises?
Well, it's not been planned for numerous reasons. For anyone, I mean, this is more leadership. For anyone who gets into or wants to get investment, we were not on plan. We had a couple of headwinds, so a couple of things we weren't expecting financially. The pandemic wasn't too bad for us. The energy crisis was. Our biggest sector was energy, and I was about to go on my first holiday for 12 years, and I was flying out on the Tuesday, and I thought I'll go in the office on the Monday. And I got a phone call from our biggest client and said, with the energy prices, we can't sell, we need to stop using your system. And nearly 30% of our revenue stopped coming in the next day. They haven't cancelled, they're still a client, they just can't use the system. And us being the way we are as that partnership, they weren't at fault. We allowed them to reduce their contracts because that's the right thing to do. We could have held them to the contract and carried on getting the money, but that's not how we work as a business. So we allowed those things to happen. That then impacted our forecasting and our growth plans. We did very well through the pandemic. I always say we could have really done better, yeah, but we could have done a lot worse as well. So as a team, we got through it. We grew, our sales were good. We just had those headwinds that we had to counter. And we're back to growth. We're doing really well again this year. So you had these plans when we bought the company. So new to this, bought a company for the first time, CEO, private equity backed, here are the plans. And it was just issue that you didn't account for after issue. So the staffing crisis you'll have heard about in the contact center, well, that drops usage on our systems by 30%. So we had a 30% drop in utilization. We didn't forecast for that. So it was a constant challenge after challenge, but as a team, and we are a team, we're quite flat hierarchical, we come together, we accept the challenges and we work through it. And that's how we work as a company. So there's a lot of positives that come to it, because I think also you learn what you're about when you're in these situations as a business. And as a company, we come together, and it's not just management, it's the whole company. We come together and we share the information. We don't hide anything from the staff, because they're part of this journey and part of the company as well. So it was great to see us how we responded to that. And now as we're looking ahead, which is brilliant, starting to get back to strategy, it only gives me more confidence we're going to execute on that strategy as well.
There's a lot to unpack there. I just want to check, did you go on holiday?
I did. Do you know what was funny is me and my partner, because of work, I tell people not to be like me. I'm terrible for work. Don't copy, don't do the hours I do. We hadn't had a holiday for 10 years. We booked 3 holidays the year the pandemic hit, and we had to cancel them all. And then we got that first holiday when they opened up and we could go international. So it was actually 12 years before I actually had a break, which is crazy.
I'm glad though that you still managed to get out there though.
I did get out there. I had a few phone calls with the investors, etc., and a few with the clients, but it was straight, honest conversations, and we work with them. And the best thing I can say is that they'll come back and eventually will recover and they'll be a client again. So,
well, I think you kind of said at the outset the importance of partnership, and what better example is there of that? It's kind of that is actually when you need partners is when the chips are down, right? Rather than when things are swimming, just
easy when it's going well.
Yeah.
It's like friendship. Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's when things happen, that's when you test that relationship.
How have you approached? I think it's fascinating and inspirational actually to hear, you, like you said, you didn't set out to be CEO, and there's so much that you're learning, and there's so much that you're coming at it from a different angle. Well, how do you approach that, the concept of not knowing but having all of that responsibility? Have you got a methodology, or is it just like always forward, the kind of engineer type outlook?
I'd love to say I have a good methodology. No, I have. I'm not one of those. Naturally, I'm not a person that looks back. I'm quite stoic. I only believe in looking forward. I can't change the past. I can learn from it, but I can't change it. So I have this attitude, and I'm very honest. I admit my mistakes. I've got up in front of an entire company when we doubled our staff. I said we failed as a business there, and it impacted our staff. And we've learned from it, but we will learn, and we'll make changes. So, I think you go into it and treat people as adults, be open and honest. We still say to our staff, we're still learning, and we still haven't got the hybrid working right as a business. It's not completely wrong, but it's not 100% where we need it to be. And we're going to try some things, and some of those things won't work. But you're part of that, and we'll take your ideas, and we ask for your feedback. So I just think if you're honest, you're open to learning, you don't think you know all the answers. I have met and I've known to see people that think they have all the answers. And I think as you get older, I say this to the staff, when you're younger, you think you know everything. When you're older, you realize how much you don't know. And I don't think there's a right or wrong. What I do say is, and when people have asked, I say, lean into what you are strong. Don't try and be anything other than you're not. Because you get a lot of people in these positions or read a book about a company and their culture and that's not you. Don't be that. Be who you are. And it's not going to be everyone. Not everyone's we go very big on culture at interviews. If this isn't the place for you, you're not going to like it. Don't join. If this is the culture you're bought into and how you like working, then we are absolutely a perfect fit for you. and lean into what you are stronger and don't be afraid of it. And that's what we are. We're a learning business. We pull together. I'm learning. I like to do things, like to think I do things the right way, and try and create a nice working environment for everyone. I want everyone to have good. One of our sayings is I want people to have a good career that pass through Max Contact. So whether they stay here or go somewhere else, they will have
I love that.
career. So, and if you put these things in as part of your business, that's all you can do, and that is the standard. So there's no, I haven't got a framework. Be you. That's all I say.
I love that though. Don't you find, because I've always led any teams that I've led, any people that I've led with that same mindset around, my view is you're passing through. It's like a university isn't going to keep you in the university when you finish your degree. They're going to hopefully help you, propel you into whatever else that new thing may be. But don't you think there's a certain amount of freedom in your thinking that comes from that kind of, I'm going to treat you and train you and help you with your career for however long you're here, rather than it being, it's just quite restricted.
Yeah, and it helps with your management team as well, knowing that, because there isn't this short-sightedness that, well, what if they're only here 2 years and we've invested in training and we'll lose them? That's fine. That's great. That's the added value to the business while they were here. They've moved on. They'll have a career. It is one of our. I've set a goal. We have some goals that we set with the leadership team, and one of them is I want to be that company in Manchester, then the Northwest, where people want to come and work for us, and that's the positive. People start wanting to come and working for us, knowing they're going to see how things are done the right way, get those experiences, be challenged. I'm not going to tell staff it's not easy. We have a good culture, but there's a standard as well. you have to work to a standard, and that standard is high. But you will leave here learning a lot, and you'll be exposed as much as you want to be to other areas of the business, technology, as much as you are willing to expose yourself in some ways. And that's how, when I came through, I had that exposure because there was no one else. We didn't have a management team. So if something was, I'd learn that topic, and I learned project management stuff. I learned how to do these things, and that's how I learn. You need to give everyone else that same, like I was saying about the safe work environment and give them the opportunity to learn. Well, you have to give them those opportunities to learn, and they'll have a strong career, and they will learn. Most of the staff, everyone wants to come to work and be challenged and learn, learn and have a good career and a good life for themselves. So just give them that opportunity.
Where do you see then? So let's talk about. I love the emphasis on culture, but in terms of what you guys are providing for the market and what kind of gets you excited. Look, you said at the outset, you've been into 500 contact centers. You know our industry, the industry we're all in, and where Max Contact sits in that and the service it provides. When you, like you say, you're always looking ahead. When you look ahead now, what are the things that you think, I'm really excited about this?
I think you might be bored about talking about this. I mean, the technology is exciting at the moment. I mean, I do say this to people. So everyone's ChatGPT-4 because they know it. And I go, yeah, but there's a 1, 2, and a 3. But like speech analytics and all these technologies aren't new. And actually, but what's different is we're going through a second wave. These technologies are actually now usable, meaningful. So if you had a speech analytics product, as an example, quite often in the past, you'd almost have to recruit your own data scientists to constantly keep on top of it because it didn't work. They said it did, but it didn't. AI was an overused marketing term. Most of it, like chatbots, were basically workflows and if statements. Where the technologies really come on now is the machine learning. The machine learning is getting very clever. And it actually really excites me in this industry. And I don't know an industry other than contact centers that actually embrace technology so much. Because it can actually, our mission statement is to improve the lives of those that interact with engagement platforms. And I sell this on, everyone talks about customer experience. That's a given. We want to provide good customer experience to your clients. Agent experience, I completely agree. I could not do an agent's job. Never been able to. Think it's one of the hardest jobs in the world. It's undervalued. Everyone realized in the pandemic how key it was. And then I talk about management experience. So being involved with all the implementations, the users of the system, the ones that are expected to get the information out, set up, configuration, etc., etc. The management experience is always ignored. So we want to address all that. And we think with the new technologies that are coming, we actually are in a really unique position as an agile small business to really lean into it and address it at every level. And the technologies out there are allowing you to produce products to market faster. And there's so many use cases that you can use it for. And it's just exciting about where this industry is going. And I think it really has changed. And I do believe, you get a good agent experience. The management ultimately are responsible for the agent experience that leads to customer experience. I mean, you treat your staff bad, guess what happens? And the job's hard. Have you ever watched it? Some of the agents in some of the industries, we send our developers to sites to learn. And the speed of the effort that they go through, agents, and how you can impact making their lives easier just from the technologies they use. So you're starting to see like real-time assist, which shouldn't be, you're not replacing the agent. It's just if this client says something, you go and getting that information for them to save them having to do it. So it makes them more efficient, etc. So these technologies now, I think, are brilliant. Even like simple stuff, call summarization. Imagine not having to write the notes up at the end of every call. We'll do it for you. That type of stuff improves people's day-to-day lives, makes it easier. And not to, like I say, I don't want to forget the managers, because I've done loads of setups. And if the technology is a pain to use, it's a pain to use. So we're going through like a UI UX refresh right now, and we're going to start incorporating some of these technologies for the management as well. So.
It's a fascinating subject. Like you, I think we're, from the general public point of view, it amazes me that they don't appreciate that we are at the cutting edge. Everything that's happening in terms of utilization of new tech in a real world environment, that's contact centers. Yeah. That is it. There's nothing better than that.
Always has been as well. I do think the underappreciation of, contact centers got a bit of a dirty term. Your PPI and your RTA did it a bit too much, to be honest. And those industries are gone now. And actually, also employment. I think it's sort of stat the other day, 3% of employment in the UK is contact center agents. And that doesn't account for the other ancillary jobs that sit around that and the lives it does. And, we've got some clients, we've got some charities, domestic abuse, suicide lines, we've got bank fraud lines. You want to get through to people. You pick up something, you've got a problem. The other thing is contact center agents, they tend to if you're outbound, you're dealing with sales or debt collection, which if you've ever set in a debt collection software, which are there, that is a tough job. Sales, you probably average one sale a day, but take 350 calls. That's 349 rejections every single day. And then if you're in customer service, you tend to be speaking to people who are not happy. And it's not your fault they're not happy. You're just there to help, but you get all the blame and all these things. And we want to start, seeing even simple things. I want to say, if you talk about sentiment analysis. So if we've had a real bad call or interaction for an agent, I want to be able to take that agent out and give them a cooling off period. Whereas in contact centers with calls queuing, it's 2 seconds. And you've had a bad experience and you've got a call 2 seconds later. That's not fair. And there's been studies where they've put caps on their heads and shown the mental brain paths that even a 30-second, a minute break between calls and interactions that were poor, the effect it has on their mental health is amazing. So when we talk about these technologies, I think what needs to happen is it needs to bleed into the rest of the experience, not just the common use cases that people talk about. These use cases like that, they'll want to start looking at.
I 100% agree. And the little journey you took us through then was my journey as an agent. I was outbound, I was collections, and then I was customer service. And, technology at the time, it was a mission. It was something that you were kind of, before coming onto the contact center floor, you were weighted down with all of these different things and go, right, now try and do the obstacle course that is your job, rather than like now. And so you're dead right in terms of what impact does it make. I think Contact Babel showed that there's a direct correlation between the mental effort and the number of systems you're having to orientate and go through and attrition. So if you can minimize the systems that people are using, because I know firsthand, you are involved in some tricky conversations And even though you might be experienced and been at a company for a while, so know the systems, something you just said then, if the notes could be done for you, I mean, happy days. But again, there then becomes a responsibility from management not to just then use that gap to hammer in the next call, is to go, okay, good. The notes are done. We're happy with that. You've now got that 30-second break. Good. Exhale, get ready. Here comes the next one.
Yeah. I mean, it's this massive change. And I get contact centers. Look, the owners are going through a tough time. They're getting what prices have gone up. They're being asked to do more or less. We saw in the pandemic, interactions went up 30%, while the staff went down 30%. There's another panic. Training onboarding times. You used to go and sit in a training room for 2 weeks. You got a 2-hour video when you were on the phone. It was like, what has happened? And then they were complaining about burnout and staff leaving because they're not trained well. And you're like, well, we're creating this problem, and it's hard to take that breather, but you have to. And I agree exactly what you're saying there. The problem is people need to not use the technology as a way of increasing. They need to use it as way as improving the experience for people. And I think that's the problem. I think it's going to be used the other way. And it's wrong. You know, if you're saving DPA check, you're saving call summarization. You know, it's getting clever now where if you ask, what's my balance? If we're connected to the CRM, we'll just go and get it for you. Saving those clicks. Yeah. Like you said there with concentration, if you start typing to an email now while I'm talking to you, you will stop hearing what I'm saying. You can't not do it. The brain, as much as everyone thinks they can multitask, it's proven actually we're not very good at it. So these technologies, I think, will improve and help the agents. I think it'll improve lives, but I think that's a challenge for the contact center industry, where they need to use it as an opportunity to improve the lives of agents, not improve their productivity overall. It will improve productivity, but there needs to be a balance. It's like the balance with customer experience versus cost. We'll send everyone to a chat box. It's cheap, but customer experience drops. Make the agents more efficient. We need to improve the agent experience, not try and hammer it through productivity.
Love it. Love it. So true. When you think about, Max Contact, and do you consider yourself the kind of, you mentioned something earlier, you're agile. Do you consider yourself the kind of agile, like, would you use a word like underdog or not? Or was that not coming to your kind of thinking?
No, I mean, budget wise, there's our competitors' marketing budget is more than we're employing. So, there's always that, when we bought the company, that question gets asked when we're raising finance, what's stopping them just burying you? But I look at why our clients stay with us, and I look at why we don't do greenfield sites anymore. We change out someone else's system. And ultimately, that comes down to, regardless of the technology, it's service and our support and our agility. That if you ask all our big clients why they use us versus someone else, and especially the BPOs who use all the systems under the sun, to us now, they say it's those two things. It's the partnership. And I think that agility to the big players it's died where you're an underdog. Gone as the days where, you didn't get sacked for buying IBM was the selling. I think a lot of people in the pandemic realized they were only as agile as the partners. And when the pandemic hit and everyone went home, with these big companies, a lot of the businesses realized that the partner isn't agile, neither is their organization. And actually the more agile organizations are the smaller ones. And now with hosting in Azure and AWS, it's not like it's not safe. So you can be a smaller business and provide, even I would say, I'm going to say this, a better level of service, because if you call a big vendor and try and get through to a senior engineer, you're talking 2 weeks by the time you get there. You will get to a senior engineer within our organization fast if you need to. Therefore, we can solve problems and help faster. So underdog, size-wise, we are probably punching above our weight. We have some big clients and we have some great logos and names. But I also like a challenge, and that's the challenge. And if I didn't have a challenge, I'd get bored. And I do see it as a challenge, and I think we're going to rise to that challenge, and I think it's a challenge we're going to start winning.
What would you say to when you're describing that? I'm really interested in this, the culture change and the culture now. So for people that are thinking, oh, you know what, I'm going to check out Max Contact. How do you summarize the company and the culture?
Well, the first thing is I'd say we're not fully there yet. anyone meets me, I'm never happy. I congratulate, well done, but I'm always looking ahead. And I don't think we fully nailed it. I think we've definitely made massive leaps. And I'd say the culture we had was your old, I use the examples of factory worker. You used to get a manager telling someone how to do their job they do every day better. You know what, our challenge is, well, you tell, I say in our business, well, I want to be responsible for 5% of the decisions. That's it.
Nice.
And we have a value that all decisions are made between yourselves, and only if you can't agree, there's conflict, do you escalate. So you have to get through a few escalation points before it gets to me. Otherwise, you know, innovate. And this is the thing with an innovation culture. We have got an innovation culture, and everyone thinks innovation culture is an invention culture. They think they've got to come up with this grand idea. That's not innovation. Innovation is small incremental improvements that get you to where you're going. And very rarely is it a big leap. So it's improving a small process, saying, why do we do it this way when this way is better? And the answer, anyone ever turns around to me and goes, well, we do it that way because that's the way we've always done it, they know that doesn't go down well. It's, well, if it's not fit for purpose, change it. Everyone's empowered to make those changes. I'll put those suggestions forward. So I'd say, you know, if you want to be part of a business where you have a good say, you'll have training and exposure to lots of areas of technology, people, and you want to be in, I say it's an exciting industry as well. You just said it. Everyone thinks contact centers is boring. It really isn't. It's really exciting. And you want a company where we think we're doing things the right way. I keep saying that. I don't want to blow. We're doing things the right way, and it's just being part of that journey as well. You know, when I was coming through, I didn't, even though I worked hard, I didn't feel like I was part of it. It's strange. You know, I want people to feel like they're part of it. So you're going home feeling like you've made a difference. This is why we send developers to sites, so they can see the lives of the people they impact. You know, if you release a bug, it affects that person. If you improve this for that agent, you know, we've done it where we got a suggestion from an agent, we implemented it into the system, and we sent the developer who built it to go and sit with the company that suggested it. And he got the feedback from the end users directly about how he'd impacted their lives.
Nice.
You know how good he felt about it. So I also don't like throwing things over the wall. I like to get the recognition through, the feedback loops, and just all those good things. Like I say, I don't think we're fully there yet. I don't think we are, but the biggest thing to say is we're trying. We try hard, and if someone wanted to come here, you can be part of that journey.
I love the distinction between, or the clarification on what innovation is. I've had first-hand experience of someone saying to me, I've got to be innovative. What does that mean? And you make the nice distinction there between, people think it's invention. People think that it means, oh, I've come up with a new service and I have to do that every day. No, you don't. That's not innovation.
Innovation. So it's small, and it's most of the time it's been thought of before. That's the other thing. There's very little that's new these days. It really isn't. You're not coming up with that idea that no one else has ever thought of. And it's just having, I'd say the biggest part of an innovation culture is staff empowerment. And people feeling empowered, they're allowed to make suggestions or change. And actually, to get innovation right, that's that no blame, empowerment, safe working environment. If you create those three things, you're creating a culture of innovation, because you're creating an environment that allows them to do it. If you've got the why did you do that, there's blame, that went wrong, and you've not got the it's a lesson we learn together, then it stifles it. But yeah, most innovation in a business, it's small. We celebrate, like, so we had a developer the other day, and he took our build time for labs from 30 minutes to 10 minutes. That's innovation. It improves the lives of everyone in development that builds labs, because they don't have to sit there waiting for half an hour. It's now 10 minutes. That's an innovation culture. It's not new. He hasn't reinvented the wheel. He's just improved something that needed improving.
What would you say, there'll be people listening who might be on the first stage of their kind of management career, or their career. They've come from the phones, they've become a team leader, and maybe they're thinking, you know what, I want to get into technology. I want to get into another thing. Is there one bit of advice you would give people?
I'd say one thing, there's a couple of things I wish I'd have done earlier in my career. One, you mentioned it very early on, that's self-reflection, and be honest with yourself. So as an engineer, I'll use an example of why you don't coach and why you sat in a meeting room, there's a problem. And if you're honest, why do you blurt the answer out? Oh, you should do this. Why didn't I say ask questions and lead people to the answer? And the honest answer is because it makes me feel good about myself.
Yeah.
I'm the cleverest one in the room. And that's that self-reflection, but being honest with self-reflection. And I wish I had done that much earlier and been more aware of the reason you do things, because once you realize what you're doing and why, then it gives you the opportunity to change and improve. So I'd say a bit of self-reflection on how, especially if you're going to manage people, you need to be very self-aware of how you communicate. I would say never stop learning. I honestly, the amount of people that think they've read a book or a blog or a couple of podcasts and they think they're experts. And like I say, as they got older, I spoke to a CEO the other day who's got a company with 45,000 agents and he's putting himself on another MBA. I was like, you and me are going to get on.
Yeah.
And it's because you don't know, and be honest, that egos, leave your ego at the doors, and you modern, I'd say. There's loads of things I messed up on. These are all things I failed at, by the way. And I just think, be inclusive with your team and learn how to have constructive conversations. That's another thing I put off. You think you're giving someone bad news and you're going to upset them. 9 times out of 10, when I ended up having the conversation with people in the right way, obviously, they ended up thanking me for the feedback.
Yeah.
And you're like, why did I not bring and you're beating yourself up on it. And it actually was a positive experience. Lots of things. So, and this comes down to the learning. Learn, expose yourself, be honest when some things go wrong, replay what you could have done better. I quite often kick myself and wish I had done things better. There's so much. Honestly, I could keep going. I know you said one, and I'll give you about 10.
Do you know what? For me, you absolutely embody what a growth mindset is. This kind of growth mindset is you're always progressing. You're always thinking. I think someone said this later age thing around knowledge, and it's actually wisdom. So wisdom is knowing, and I've probably mangled this to death, but wisdom is being comfortable and excited by how much you don't know, and that kind of, and going, there's so many more things I can find out and try and fail at, and you're comfortable with that feeling. You're comfortable with going, I'm enjoying never being the finished article. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it never will be, and that's because businesses evolve. And what was right? So what was right when we started up, i.e., zero revenue, and the attitude, the way you had to be quite push, get things done. So where the business evolves now, where actually it's pull. I'm gonna pull people along, and then in another 3 years it'll be different. So that's why you have to learn, because if you are in this position, or you're in an evolving, growing business, the needs and requirements for the business, what it needs now, is not going to be the same in 2 years. So you should always be looking a little bit ahead on what the company needs and what is needed from you as well as a manager, a leader. And I also think the more leaders you have in a business, the better. And I think you don't have to be a manager to be a leader. I think it goes all throughout a business, and you try and instill it into everyone.
Well, Ben, I think this has been excellent. I've certainly found you really, really inspirational and interesting. I thank so much for giving up your time, and definitely hope to hear from you again on Get Out of Rap.
Yeah, let's appreciate your time. It's been good. I know, Gab, one thing I talk too much.
It's perfect for a podcast.
Yeah, it does help, I suppose. But no, it's great, and I hope everyone, if anything, learning from. If I wish I'd have learned and had listened to more from people before I started off doing what I was doing. So even if they would take one thing from it, I'd be happy.
Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you.